It's Sunday, May 17th. And it's a slow meeting or a low attendance. Must be a nice day outside for a lot of people. Um, Having said that, there's a couple po folks I want to ask questions of, and I'm going to start with you, Mike. Um, Mike, are you, were you in the Fort Worth Timex user group back in the day?
The what?
The Fort Worth Timex user group. Do you
I
remember?
went to one meeting or maybe two meetings and
Okay.
to get the working 2068. That's where I found a replacement 2068 and picked up the tape with a promise to show up the next meeting, and I didn't go back. I think it changed campuses. There's a community college here that's got five or six campuses, and I think in retrospect that Mr. Balch was the guy who ran it, that
Yeah.
he changed campuses or whatever. I couldn't find it anymore. It was listed
Oh.
in one of the magazines around here, and I saw it was meeting, but it doesn't show a location. It just said time, meeting second Saturday, 2 p.m. And but that's I didn't find it again. And that's
Oh.
that life. I was 19, 20, out of high school, and life was already kind of happening. And yeah, but yeah, that I went to a one or two meetings, and that was it.
Do
And
you
it was
recall
neat.
do you
Just
recall roughly what year that was?
I no.
Okay, that's fine. No, so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reason I'm
I
asking,
think I think at one point you had seen my name in an attendance roll for them,
yes,
but
exactly.
yeah, I don't remember when that was. I'll agree with whatever you found.
Well, and the reason that I ask is David Balch, the person who, was the facilitator, the guy who kept things running. He joins us on Zoom every once in a while. And
Yeah,
Ryan
saw him
was,
on one of the last meetings that I was attending. I saw his name in the side box, and I was like, "Is
yeah,
that the same one?
that
It must be."
that's him.
But yeah,
And Ryan was one of those was also a Fort Worth person, and a couple of his programs are on at least one of those tapes that they would hand out. So it's just kind of funny to me that we have three folks who had some
that
connection to
tape is
that.
why I'm even connected here. It's like I was watching some video of something. I think it may have even been Commodore related, and decided I needed to get my copy of the Timex Sinclair tape back. And yeah, that's whenever I first connected with you guys. I posted a listing that was about 30% bigger than the listing you had. So I've
Oh
got a
wow,
later copy, but
wow,
it's not in my possession at this time, and I need to get it done. But that's, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's awesome.
right. That's
Yeah. So it's just funny to me how um how folks intersect. I don't know if you remember, there was a guy, Tim Ward, who was also in the Fort Worth area and briefly involved in that group, but then he ended up moving up to the northwest, Washington, I think. I want to say Vashon Island. And then when he was up there, he ended up pulling together all sorts of 1,000 programs and making multiple library tapes of that from that stuff. Some of which came from the Fort Worth group. There's like, I've in archiving these things, I've noticed some overlaps. Wow, that's cool. Michael, where are you in? Are you still in Texas?
yes,
Okay, where are
yeah.
you? As a former Texan, I'm curious.
Kennedale in the
Okay,
Dallas area, but yeah, Kennedale. If you're familiar with Dallas, between Fort Worth and Arlington, and it's
okay.
really out in Arlington. But when I say Arlington, people think the stadium and Six Flags, and that's not where I live. I
hmm
live
hmm
basically East Fort Worth, West Arlington.
Okay, okay. When I was a kid, I was born in Dallas, but then my parents moved to Austin to go to UT, and then we left Texas in like 79 or something. But we came back in 84, and we lived in Richardson, which was an
Yeah.
awesome, and I'm put that in air quotes, suburb.
I was born in Irving and moved to Arlington when I was like 13, 14.
Okay,
And
okay.
I've been based here the rest of my life. But yeah, I lived a month in Maine and used to spend my summers out in West Texas,
Oh,
Lubbock area.
oh boy.
Yeah.
So did you go to Maine and get so cold you like, screw this, I'm coming back, or what happened? Like,
I worked
like,
for a semiconductor fab called National Semiconductor.
okay.
They
A
laid
little
us
company
all
called National Semiconductor. Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Who's heard of
little
that?
company called National Semiconductor. They laid us off, got bought by Timex. My old boss called me in like, "Hey, come to work today." So I went up to Maine and worked up there for a month, then came back. Then a couple months later, I went up there for it was going to be 6 months, but after a month of that, my wife had a miscarriage and I came home and didn't.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Then he quit the national, and I think he's running another semiconductor fab. He's a semiconductor. He's like VP of production. I mean, he's yeah, but that
So
yeah, that
what did you do at National?
lithography,
Oh
photo
wow.
lithography when it was still light based.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you okay, so I know what that means. Can you explain for the rest of the folks and the YouTube viewers?
Um, before 1998, semiconductors, the circuits on them were printed with basically $1 million to $20 million photocopiers. And it's a lot more complex than that. And people start talking about cameras and stuff, and it's really what they were was photocopiers. They did not they imaged an image already present. They looked at it and then made a copy. And there were several different forms of doing that straight through, and then the light sensitive film is below it, or it's like a mirror image of it. But we use two or three different. We use Ultratechs and the AMDs, the ones that are that company's still around, and then Perkin Elmer, which
Hmm.
was sister of the Hubble Space Telescope. The lens system was similar, and
That-
yeah,
That's crazy. All right, so do you remember any specific devices that you know, helped make?
oh yeah, yes, all of
So,
them.
so give me some part numbers. Sorry, I'm gonna nerd out on
Oh,
this for a
part
minute.
numbers I don't know, but the brains of most of those little micro laptops from the early '90s came out of our fab. The HP 9200 LX and the those little all system on a chip wrapped with a keyboard and a little screen. That we were doing a lot of those, and then basically anti-lock brakes. If you had them in the '90s and early 2000s, they came from our plant, and microwave ovens, cell phone chips, cell phone brains. It was yeah, ASIC
Yeah,
application
ASICs.
specific.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
was
awesome.
the forefront, but then we spread into EPROMs, the 9340 MM 9340s, all of the EPROMs that National produced in the early '90s and even into the 2000s. But yeah,
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. Yeah, I think I tossed my National Semi reference books a few years back.
well, they're still making those parts under
I
Timex.
know.
I know Timex, Texas Instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, TI bought them. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it was on I was
And Fairchild bought whenever Fairchild and National split, Fairchild took a lot of that analog
mm-hmm.
material with them. That yeah, and I think Fairchild's still around, but they may have got bought by somebody else now.
Yeah, I
But
do
that's
remember that.
whenever I went to Maine, that was the thing. The Fairchild plant and the National plant there were the same building, right? And to go to break, to go to the cafeteria, you walked through this narrow hallway that was shared between Fairchild and National to get to the cafeteria on the other side of the complex.
Oh, that's so crazy. Wow.
Yeah. and they were still friendly, and I guess they still are because yeah, it was like the people that work at the plant were still they knew everybody. It's like they split in 2001, something like that, and it was 2008 when I was up there, and it's like who went with Fairchild, who stayed with National, which turned into Texas Instruments. But yeah, that's
Okay, whereabouts in Maine was this? Is this rather
Southern Maine. What's the big city?
like Portland?
Portland, Maine.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Wow,
and that's
wow,
yeah, right there on the airport. That yeah, that it's basically the only big company in Portland. But yeah,
wow. That's amazing. I never knew that. I never knew that that, they had a semiconductor fab up there and I mean
yep. And I showed up the first time in February, and that year they had 10 feet of snow, 8 feet of snow, something like that. But in Portland, 8 feet of snow on the ground meant beside the road it was like 12, 13 feet, and it was
yep.
straight up walls. And that was a crazy experience driving, all white out conditions, and then the roads are cut razor sharp around the corners, so you have to basically stop. But I'm not native and don't know how to do it, and apparently, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, but the roads were all clean and dry, and down here in Texas, that's not how it happens.
Oh
Snow is
no.
in the forecast is a
Right.
reason to not
Here in
go out.
Albuquerque, if we get like an inch of snow, the city closes down.
It
Yeah.
takes
Oh,
less
if
than that, Adam.
Yeah, that's crazy.
it's in the forecast, they're already talking about stay home, don't go out, and that's people listen. It's like yeah. But then there's some other people that still think, no. It doesn't matter if there's black ice on the roads. I'm still going to drive 80 miles an hour straight into a wall. And it's every time we have fatalities that people just don't understand what ice is until they're experiencing the wall.
hmm hmm Um, so Michael, you ever go down to Padre Island?
Yep.
Before it was you know, spring break destination. It was a nice place to go.
And it
And
still is, but it's not spring break. I mean,
yeah, as
it's
long as it's not spring break, right?
great.
And as a kid, we would go there, I don't remember, but it seemed like we went there a lot. We lived in Austin. And you know, that was my idea of the ocean. And, the
Mm-hmm.
the Gulf down there at Padre Island, it's warm. It's like bathwater warm, right? So when we moved north to Massachusetts in 79, we decided, or my parents decided we're going to go, up to Freeport. And this is long before, Freeport's now just like a mall town. But back then it was like Ella Bean was just a warehouse building. Anyway, so we drive up the coast, and somewhere around Portland, uh, we stop at the ocean, and there's a beach there, and this is in August, and there are people on the beach in swimming attire, and there are people in the water, and I'm like, awesome. I haven't been to the ocean in I can't recall the last time. The last time I was, Gulf of Mexico. And so I go out there. Um, to say that the water was cold was an understatement. Late August, you'd think it has warmed up somewhat. No, no, it was freaking freezing. I came out blue. And I'm like, how are these people swimming in the water?
Yeah, when I was young, we used to go swimming off of Rhode Island because I live in Connecticut, and it was cold water.
It must have been the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Just,
And
just
we had
Up
I had step
in Maine,
sisters and brothers who lived up in Maine, and we'd go up there and we'd go swimming there too. I mean, it
yeah.
was
up
It's
in Maine, like the second weekend I was up there, Friday night, Saturday, there was like 10 inches of snow, 12 inches of snow. Sunday morning, the roads are clear because they've already graded them. So I'm out driving around. Nothing is open on Sunday except a Dairy Queen. And Dairy Queen in Maine is only ice cream. And there's a line of at least 100 people standing outside because there's no inside to the Dairy Queen in 10-degree weather waiting to get their ice cream. And that was an unusual experience even seeing it. I thought about getting out there, but I was still shy of the cold at
oh,
that point. I
That's
had
awesome.
plenty of warm clothes. It wouldn't have bothered me, but yeah, I could not comprehend that would be a good idea.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, that's what apparently what they do in Portland when it snows is go get ice cream.
Why not? Wow. That's really cool that you worked at National Semi and that you were the micro
Yep.
one of those microlithography guys. So
Yep.
um
I
I've
missed the beginning of this conversation. How did we get onto that? Just
um
asking his background, basically.
I can't what did I ask you? Mike, I asked
If
you
I was
something.
part of the TSUG, Fort Worth TSUG,
Yeah, yeah,
the
we
user,
started out talking about
that's
the
how
Fort
it
Worth
started. I don't
Timex
know how
Sinclair
it.
user group.
You mentioned you had moved away, and I mentioned I'd spent a month up there, and then you
Oh,
started
that's right.
asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Fellow Texans, we got to connect. And if Ryan joins, you'll hear more about
Yeah,
Texas,
I
I'm
just
sure.
texted him. Hopefully he'll get with us.
Um, yeah, that's crazy. So, Michael, I've only read about this stuff, and um, the very earliest articles that I remember reading, uh, they would make the designs, that were going to get reduced on film. They'd make it like, huge, relatively speaking to me. Draw it out on some giant mylar,
Mhm.
sheet, and then photo reduce it, right? Um, and then I assume had to like multiples in order to get the however many pieces were going to go on to a particular piece of silicon. Okay,
We didn't make the masks at the factory where we used. They came
masks.
in
Thank you.
all ready to print. Well, some of
Okay,
the equipment we used was 1X, which meant the sides of the lines on the mask is what
yeah,
ended up on the semi the film the wafers.
yeah.
And some was a 5X reduction, actually a little less, 4.5X. They called it 5X systems, but it was the actual reduction was a little less than that. But yeah, and that's the we had a Micron Systems, the AMD or AM, not AMD, but I'm not remembering the name. The higher technology, lower were from 1 micron down to about half a micron is what we printed on them. And the
Wow.
ones that I primarily worked on were 2 to 5 micron, the early 80s technology that we were still using in 2000. And then we got some that we were going to go sub half, but it went to Maine instead. And yeah, we were going to go get the next generation, but they did it in Maine instead.
Yeah,
So,
Michael, was that analog, digital, or mixed?
Everything
Oh,
we did
okay.
CMOS, we did CMOS, we did bi CMOS, we did analog, we did yeah. It was we had the line was running 65 different processes that
whoa.
yeah it would go through.
Wow. Back in the day, I would have liked to take a wheelbarrow through there and just kind of pick some stuff up.
Yeah,
Right. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. That is so interesting. Um, so if I understand correctly, you would do one layer, right? And then there would be a
right.
chemical process, and then you would how did that work? Were you involved in that, or were you just like the guy who shot it, basically?
I was the guy that was, if something went wrong, it would fall into my lap to figure out what was happening and keep either shut a tool down, send somebody home. It was I dealt with the problem material
Okay.
and some equipment and tried to help make things better. And that's yeah, I was a technician, engineering technician, and yeah, we would look at reports. That was the deal. But started as an operator running. They would lay the film on, run it through the printers, then develop the film, and then it would go off to wherever it's going. Either it got
Huh.
blasted by ions, or it would get etched, or it would go into a bake oven, big furnaces they call them. But it would never go. Well, there was only one operation. We would send it directly from lithography to bake. That's the very final film. We put a like mylar or plastic film on top to keep it to provide insulation, and then it would go get baked at a low temperature to just cure that. But most of the time it would either get etched or ion implanted, radiation implanted, and then come back to us for the next layer.
Yeah.
Well, we get a layer grown on, they go rust it some more, put more silicon down somehow, and then it would come back to us.
Wow.
How did they isolate the steppers from just the normal vibration in the plant?
Oh yeah.
We
I mean,
had the steppers themselves for most all of the ones I worked with, they would have like big rubber cushions that they would sit on. And that would
Okay.
be, they'd have big piece of granite, and then there would be the granite would be sitting on these rubber tires. They're not tires, but yeah, they're air-filled rubber cushions, and that would provide the isolation. And then the later machines, they would actually have that layer of isolation, and it would be another isolation in the floor, the same thing, but on a bigger scale, where it would be, there's a big rubber feet, air cushion feet on the platform that the machine sat on, and then big rubber feet on the actual equipment that's doing the work.
Oh, what amazes me is the fact that that you didn't get feedback between the stepper and everything else, because as this thing is moving around the wafer, you'd think it would joggle the
That was a lot of
machine.
what I did was fixing some of the inaccuracy by looking at what was actually occurring. Yeah, I had several 2 years of my life was doing projects to make that error go away.
And you still have hair.
Yeah, I don't know. Not the same amount of hair I used to.
Wow.
But yeah.
That is so interesting. That is so wow, that's so cool, man.
Yeah, the isolation I think is why we didn't get the next level of machines, because they were doing the Barnett Shale drilling down here, which is fracking, which is explosions and stuff. And they were doing tests for that. And then soon after that, we didn't hear any more about the .35 in Texas anymore. And they took some equipment we'd already bought out. And I think that it was, that they were worried about the drilling stuff that they were doing miles away was going to affect us at the less than half a micron dimensions, that it was just, that it was going to cause too much vibration. Plus the plant was right by a major freeway. There was other things, but the vibration, I think, is what shut the plant down.
Wow. Wow. That's utterly insane. Wow. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you for indulging me.
So rolling this back to the meeting.
Yeah.
I was looking for a Timex Sinclair 2068 ROMs, and I have not found them still.
Oh, okay. I'll post them
Instead
to
of
the
the
group.
Timex Computer 2068 ROMs that are in Fuse, or I don't know what's in 81, and I haven't investigated deeply into other ones, but I figured somebody would know, and apparently I'm the only one that cares. The Infuse, the 2068 machine, the TS machine pulls the 2TC ROMs, and it seems to work, but Purist Mike that's going to set up a system wants the actual TS ROMs that I used to use.
Right.
And we're wondering, does anybody have the ability in an actual 2068? Are those chips socketed or are they soldered?
They are
Or both?
At least one
The
of them is
answer is
socketed.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Both. I've seen boards with both. So
Right.
I usually replace the
actually
unsocketed ones with sockets.
Pull the box out and see if I can do it myself before I start buying equipment.
Oh, well, they're out there. The ROMs are out there easily.
Well, no, I think I think Mike's right that there are with Fuse, those ROMs are technically TC 2068 in the file name.
Yeah, they're using the same ROMs for both machines, and I
Yeah.
don't know if it matters or not. But the fact that, but you would think that the fact that they're the same means it doesn't matter. But then you look at the history of Fuse, they already had those machines set up with no ROMs 15 years ago. And
Yeah.
so they had them targeted as we're going to support this, but they only had the 2048 ROMs. And I don't know what they would do. It's still listed TC 2068 even back then, but they weren't in the repo.
And not actually ever having touched a TC 2068, I can't say whether they are different or the same as the TS 2068
I've
ROMs.
read online that it was easier for the European version to run Spectrum software, that they made
Oh,
some
the,
addressing changes, and that would suggest that the ROMs aren't the same.
no,
But in the emulator, you don't see it.
that's the TC 2048, um, which is
Okay.
it has a Spectrum expansion bus. Um, the 2068 was shipped with a Spectrum emulator cartridge uh by the folks in Portugal. So you could
Yeah.
run Spectrum stuff. Um but yeah, I don't think I have it. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it right away, not immediately. But yeah, I'll do some digging and see if I can't get to the bottom of it. See what I've got.
And
Uh,
the other
binary or
side of that,
binary or assembly language?
Binaries.
Um, because I have binaries I'm using on my FPGA that originally had the you know t copyright message said 2068 TS 2068. I'm not sure if those were scraped from a ROM or where they came from though.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have some files that I pulled off ROMs for that computer for one of the group members that I fixed that needed a new ROM.
Uh,
So I pulled both ROMs out of one machine and I dumped them, and I have those handy. If maybe just
that's
drop them in
what I'm
chat.
looking for.
Well, no, send
Yeah.
them to the email list, Joe. Zip them up and send them to the email
Okay,
list.
we'll do.
yeah, because I'd like to do a binary compare against the stuff that I've assembled to see if they're the same.
I think
Yeah,
that's where these came from.
that's
I have a
exactly what
folder.
to do is just see, are they actually the same so it doesn't matter, or is there some differences? And if you're doing programming, you're going to check it with Fuse and maybe introduce errors programming to the wrong.
Oh, I don't think that that's gonna be the case because there were Americans. There was a point in time when a couple small companies were importing the TC 2068, for
Mm-hmm.
folks who, had a
Wanted
20
stuff.
regular American 2068. And they also were importing the floppy disk system from Portugal. Um, but I don't know, I can't remember. Uh, I think the TC puts out NTSC. Um, I don't recall seeing anything about, needing a special monitor in the articles that I've read about the TC 2068 in the American publications. So, I mean, really the big difference is the SCLD, when they um, Portugal or somebody at Timex slightly redesigned the SCLD. The one in the 20 in the TS 2068 puts out YUV video, which works well with the Motorola uh, TV chip, basically. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the TC puts out RGBI, um, which, you know, lets you get all 15 color levels um, on the edge, the connector port. And that's really the main difference. You know, the rest of it's pretty much the same inside. So cool. Oh, Ryan joined us.
He looks like he's traveling. He was on video
Oh,
for a second.
Oh,
but
was he? Okay.
yeah, and he was like kind of walking around.
Okay.
So,
I see. So, I want to ask Jeff Burrell and I want to ask Ingo to talk about projects. Jeff, we haven't talked about the 2060 project in a long time, I think, on this meeting.
Oh,
Do you want to just give a little update on things that you've done?
okay. From what point?
The hardware. The
well,
hardware that
actually,
you
why don't you just first give a paragraphs of what it is?
Oh,
Okay, I
okay.
know what it is, but yeah.
Okay, so the 2060 is a printed circuit board that was designed in cooperation with the hardware group that meets on Wednesdays. And it is a board that reimagines what Timex could have done with more modern technology with their 2060 bus expansion unit. And the board, as it's presently designed, has a megabyte of static RAM on board um, and VGA video output, a serial port. Uh, then it has a stereo output and USB inputs for keyboard, gamepad, and mouse, an SD card interface, a a Wi-Fi interface, which right now is the Wi-Fi interface works, but there's no supporting software for it, and then a real-time clock, and then all of that is driven and interfaced with the 2068 with an FPGA that handles all of the low-level stuff, access to the SRAM. It produces the VGA video and some other stuff. So uh, I had a version 2 design that I've sent out to certain members of the hardware group, and also that we showed last year at VCF Midwest, that allows you to load programs and run programs for the 2068 from the SD card. Also, the system has been designed so that you can right now, and I have cores available that allow you to run Spectrum software as well. So the intent is that eventually this thing will allow you to boot up, select whether or not, say, you want to run a 2068, a 2068 enhanced, uh, a Spectrum, or maybe a Spectrum enhanced. Uh, I'm looking into maybe a Spectrum 128 core for it as well. That's a little tricky. Now, any cores are going to be limited by the Timex hardware because that runs NTSC at 60 hertz and all of that. So that's kind of what this board is designed to do. And uh, actually, Joe has been working on getting a case uh, designed for this so that when the board is finally released, you'll have a nice enclosure for it that'll plug onto the 2068, protect the board and protect the 2068, as a matter of fact. So uh, as I said, the version 2 board has been distributed to some of the members of the hardware crew. Uh, I have uh, I have one final version, a version 3, that basically just moves some things around. It doesn't change the core functionality, but it moves a joystick connector and some other things around, and I'll be ready to send that off in June. Then in support of that, I have, oh, then in support of that, I'm currently writing some software that makes programming cores for this board a little bit easier. Also, the board doesn't have to be plugged into a 2068. You could, and actually I'm writing a core for that right now. You could make it a standalone computer for CPM, or even a standalone 2068 emulator, if you will. So it can be connected as a peripheral to 2068, or it can stand alone. And then David, you just had the enclosure there, right?
Yeah, give me 1 second to turn off my, because I got all, shoot. Let me turn off my background.
So So right now where we're sitting is that I would expect by the end of fall, going into winter, we should have the first of the Rev 3 boards back for evaluation. Uh, and as with most things, the hardware design is relatively simple. It's the supporting software that's going to take some time to develop.
Right. Says the man who's not a programmer,
No, 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 no.
but who is spending a lot of time being a programmer these days.
No, 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 no.
So here's the board that
Want to
I gotta
highlight yourself?
what oh shoot, I'm sorry. Yes, let me spotlight myself. Sorry. Spotlight for everyone. Okay, cool. There we go. All right, so here's the board. Jeff, which one is this? Is this the one
That
or
should be the
two?
that should be the version 2.
Okay. And this is the bottom sort of half of the case that Joe has designed. Let me just slap the top on so you can see how cool this will look. If I recall correctly, this is the one that's a little too narrow.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice.
but here's the top. There's going to be I'm going to try to do this backwards here. Um, Joe's going to have to remind me, and Joe and Jeff are going to have to remind me what these LEDs are supposed to be. This little
Oh,
indent here is the labeling for those LEDs.
right.
This is for a super tiny um, OLED display that we'll be able to program it to show messages. And here's where the SD card slot is. This is where the power cable comes through. This is where the little label is, and then a power LED. And then the back, here's sorry, backwards here. Joe's design, and this is not holding together well, but that's me. That's not Joe's design. Um, Power input, that's a USB-C, that's a regular USB-A. There's the stereo audio portion. This is VGA serial,
Yeah.
um, ex expansion bus.
And that's the standard 2068 expansion bus.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Um, and this is I bought the largest 3D printer that was available at the time to in order to print these, and it fits. It just fits on that giant printer that I have sitting in my basement.
All right.
Um,
So the three holes on the one side on the top, those are the
yeah.
buttons, the little push buttons
Oh, that's
to
right.
do the different functions. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Reset, right? Do you remember what the
Yeah.
other buttons are?
And reset NMI and one to reset the mass storage Pico in case it loses its mind.
Ah, yes, yes. That's right. And Joe, the back side, um, you've changed that a bit, right? So it has like a little insert panel.
Right. Yeah. Because of we weren't 100% fixed on where everything was going to be when uh when I built that. I just left it open so that I could make it a separate panel, almost like a ATX uh, cover
Yeah,
slot, or port cover. Port
yeah,
covers.
yeah.
But
So
I'm not sure if the final one, I'm just going to incorporate that because the putting that in there, it was a little bit sloppy. So we'll see.
okay,
I'm debating that back and forth whether or not
cool.
it would be better just to have them as part of the case.
Yeah, yeah. Right. And so like, Jeff and Joe said, work in progress. We are nailing down the software for the TS Pico, and I just have a couple more tests before I can give the software back to Ryan and Ricardo to look at and, do their uh, pounding on it, as it were. Um, and then, well, Ricardo wants to do many things at once, but one of the things that will happen is the attention will turn towards the software for the 2060 basically. And if you couldn't tell, by the way, uh, the there's an overhang here. Let me go. There's an overhang, and so just like in the picture, your 2060 sort of sits underneath it, inserts into this unit, just like in that famous picture of the 2068, the 2060, the micro drives, the tape, etc.
Do you have that handy, David?
That picture, yeah, give me a second to find it. Um, Let me see here. It's on the website, but like I said, it'll take me a second.
Wasn't it in your background a couple minutes ago?
That's the illustration of the 2068 that I have that some guy
Oh,
made. Um, I know where to find this. We go. Oh shoot, that's just a thumbnail picture. How about this picture? Okay. Zoom. There you are. Let me share my screen. There we go. So, yeah. I mean, it's not an exact. We're not going for like, 100% exact because we've already made changes in terms of putting in the little switches and the LED and the SD card slot. So like that bevel that you see on it is smaller on the one that, in the case that Joe designed. But yeah, in the same way that you see this 2060 sort of sticking into that that the 2068 sticking into the 2060, it'll be similar. You plug your
Well, as
computer
long
in.
as the case is strong enough to hold the wafer drives and the modems and the cassette, I think we'll be good.
All right, so let me so Joe's done a lot of really cool sort of engineering here. Let me show you the inside. I'll spotlight myself again. This is the inside of the case, and you can see.
Oh.
By the way, this part here. This is actually not supposed to be that. That's from the bottom half. That's where the bottom half inserts into the upper half, and it's a little too tight. So in this version, you couldn't actually separate these things. But there's this massive brace right here that sits on. It sort of sandwiches the PC board, and there's a brace. There's a similar brace on the bottom half, so it'll support at least an LCD, LED, whatever kind of monitor you might have. I don't know if I'd put a big old
CRT,
RGB one up there, but Joe, what do you think? Joe, you're
you're
muted.
muted, Joe.
try that. Okay. I actually designed it and tested it for a 13-inch TV.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
a 13-inch CRT TV. So, I mean, if you wanted to really make it look old school, you could. So,
Actually, Joe, I've been wondering. I have this really nice yo-yo. I don't know if that's a 10 or a 12-inch LCD
mhm.
monitor. I've been thinking about making just a fake wrap that would fit over it, that would turn it into a Timex monitor.
Well, you go get an old shell from an old monitor or an
Yeah,
old TV and just plop it in there.
yeah,
You may have to like 3D print a bezel, an added bezel to make it fit because of course the CRT was curved. So you might have to add a little bit to the front or something. But I've seen that done
yeah,
where people take
yeah.
and just drop an LCD behind
Oh
where the
shoot.
CRT
Yeah.
used to hook onto. Yeah. And then just made some brackets where the old ears on the CRT would
Hmm.
screw into the front of the case. They just made some brackets that held the LCD in place. So yeah.
Ingo, do you have a minute? Or have you
Yeah,
dashed?
Yeah, sorry. I have to leave here pretty soon. And I didn't want to interrupt anybody just popping in and then popping out again. But um I just
Plug your
have
webpage.
one yeah, I just have one really small update right now. So it's a work in progress. I'm working on a landing page, but it's up, it's live, and it has a subscribe link on it. So anybody that wants to get an email whenever there's an update, because very soon I will have links to GitHub repo for STL files and PCBs, things like that. And then anything that will be available to order as a kit or anything ready built. There's links to there's photos, there's videos. Um, So yeah, and I really would love to get feedback from everybody. So if anybody has some criticism, it doesn't even have to be constructive. It could just be criticism. I'd love to hear it. You don't have to be nice. Um, but like I only have one FAQ, and it would be, if some of you have other questions. But then, like licensing, all the open source stuff, everything will kind of spring off of this page. So I just
Okay.
wanted to have a common point for people to communicate with me and for me to notify everybody, hey, we now have this, like we have a keyboard kit now, right? You can order a full keyboard, or whatever. So, and then, when all the STLs are available and whenever there's a new version of an STL, like if we're always modifying the case. So 'cause we keep getting feedback and we keep adjusting to the feedback. So, yeah, sorry this one's so short. I wanted to really hang out with you guys today, but I'm jumping from one job to another. So I'm still in my coveralls. Um,
How are you?
and they're going to kick me out of this hotel, and then I got to drive 2.5 hours to the Bay Area and check into my next hotel. So you guys have fun. Good to
Well,
see
drive safe.
everybody. And
Thank you, Ingo.
thanks for
Yeah.
thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank
see you
you.
guys.
Cool. Um, did I want to ask Jeff Coolman? You're going to be going to VCF Southwest?
Yes.
Okay. And you're going to have your
Is that this coming weekend?
No, it's the
no,
weekend after next.
Okay.
you're going to have your Bodo keyboard thingy.
Yeah, I'm working on the software for the Lambda 8300 now. I don't think I'm gonna have it done. I was hoping to have the interface working for the Lambda, but I don't think it's gonna be ready. But yeah, I'll have the Timex 1000 connected like a little, what, 7-inch TV or something, a little PC powered TV. And then my 1500.
Is it a black and white TV by chance?
Yeah, it's a little
Oh,
black and white
that's cool.
portable. Yeah. Um, what else? Yeah, the 2068, the Jupiter Ace.
Oh,
Mm,
wow.
yeah, I don't know. It'll be quite a few things.
Okay. Okay. Um, you wouldn't happen to have one of your little Bodo keyboard things handy, would you?
Yeah, the wood shop just got done with the 5 of them. Hang on.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah, yeah. While you go find that. Um, I got a couple other things. I don't we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, Jeff, show us let me spotlight you, Jeff. Hang on
Okay.
just a sec. Okay, so Jeff, people on YouTube and probably other people here either don't recall, don't know. This is totally new to them. So tell us about it.
Okay, it's a late 1800s, early 1900s teletype. So it's a corded keyboard. So you've got the 3 keys here for your right hand, and then you got 2. Oh my God, I'll do it upside down. But anyway, it's a corded keyboard. Normally you wouldn't have your hands crossed. And you would have, I think, 4 to 6 of these like at a table. So you'd have multiple operators, and there's like a disc, and it would give you 60 degrees of rotation to let you type in your character. You'd have a cadence bell, and then it would release, there's like electromagnet. Mine doesn't support the electromagnet, stuff like that. But then you could release your keys, and then the next guy, next operator rather, would send his character, and you'd have 4 to 6 multiplex through the same set of wires to send messages.
Huh.
And I'm working with iCode because their Atari joystick to USB adapter doesn't support multiple, like an up, down at the same time or left, right indication. And I would like to demo this in an emulation mode as well as on real retro computers. So it's a basic project, a real simple project
Doesn't
that
sound
uses
basic to me,
basically,
but all right.
say again?
I said it doesn't sound basic to me.
Oh,
Sounds like
well,
you
no,
put a
because
lot
it
of work into
interfaces with
this.
a joystick port. I'm trying to keep it simple. So pretty much any retro computer with a joystick port that supports the 5 inputs, and then a short machine code driver to kind of translate the keys. So don't, like I said, I'm working on the 2068 version, the Lambda 8300. Hopefully when I get the Spectrum next, the Commodore 6400, Commodore 64 version. So I will have the character definitions for the French characters, or use the redefined characters, and it'll just have a lookup table or whatever to kind of display what characters you're typing. So I want to have like a tutorial mode and like a just pre-type mode and things like that to kind of teach like children or adults that are interested in the history of teletypes. And like Jeff Burrell said a while back, the term baud, when you used to have the modems, the 300 baud modem or 1200 baud modem, well, that's derived from Baudot's work, in the teletype industry. So it just has some neat history to it, I think, and it's just kind of in the same vein as the computer controller cookbook that came out in the early 80s. And it was a book that had, I don't know, like 12 or 14 joystick interfacing projects in it. And this guy's kind of an homage to, what you can do with the joystick port that maybe is above and beyond what normally people think of rather than just playing games through it. So.
So would this have been used at like a Western Union back in the day, or where would?
Yes. Yeah, it'd be
Okay.
similar like that.
And this character encoding was used in early computers and mainframes as well. Before we sort of settled on what we now called ASCII and a 7-bit representation of the alphabet and numbers and all the control codes and whatnot. There were computers that supported Baudot,
Mhm.
and you could punch your paper tape with Baudot code versus
Mhm.
some other mechanism. Um, so with 5 bits, that's what 2 to the power of 5 is
32 characters.
32
Yeah, so you've got
characters.
31 characters, then there's the escape bit that gets you into like the special characters that
Yeah.
gives you the numbers and things
Oh,
like that.
okay. That's what I was going to ask is how do you
Yeah.
get to
So,
okay.
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff, do you know at the time where that keyboard was in use, did they had a printer side to that, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Are you going to build one of those?
No, like I say, I thought about it, and I do want to I want to use this for the basic to get the paper tape reader working too. But I keep having other computers. I keep piddling with this dang project, interfacing different things and working with different people on other computer clubs. Like, dang it, I've got ideas, but it's just you guys actually act on your ideas. I think a lot, but I don't do a lot. So that's the difference. But yeah.
No, you're well and truly home here if you're
So, okay, so I mean, do you even have paper tape, punched paper tape?
No, and I used to, and I don't know what happened to it. And so I don't even have an example paper tape right now, no.
Okay, okay. Over the past week or so, I've been reading these ancient computer magazines, Computer Design and Computers and Automation, both of which are archived on archive.org. They originally come from the Bit Savers group. It's a massive FTP, website thing of manuals and magazines and stuff going back to the early 60s, maybe even into the late 50s. I don't know. I haven't stumbled across anything that old yet. But so one of the computers that I was reading about was this thing called an LGP30, which was made by a division of Royal McBee, who also made typewriters. You may, if you know of a Royal typewriter, those
Mhm.
same company, right? So this was a computer that had as its memory, it had a drum, a big old metal drum that spun at a certain rate, and uh, you could you could write your program such that it would pick up your instruction, and then in the amount of time it took that drum to turn and move to the next spot, it would then pick up the next instruction. But you could also manipulate it in ways to do crazy things. So some guy has created an FPGA version of the LGP30 and then its successor, which I've already forgotten the name of. But he also created a little
Don't say drum.
paper tape reader that
Okay.
you can pull paper tape through at about a meter a second, and it will read it, with LEDs and stuff. The project's on his website. So Jeff, in case you need a paper tape reader, you don't happen to have a design already, there's a couple out there.
It seems like there's lots of stuff there on this interweb. Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to make a presentation about it on the next meeting. Great.
No, no,
Thanks, Jeff.
Well,
I'm not.
I'm not sure if I can make the next meeting, but it's like no, but yeah, it's just it keeps me
Oh,
busy.
that's right. The next meeting is going to be during the Southwest show, isn't it?
No, the
Oh, no, no,
Southwest
that's right. Never mind.
is
That's going
end
to
of
be on a
May.
Sunday. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to move it, I saw, Jeff, because of the World Cup. Or they
Oh,
didn't they it's at the end of May. I guess originally it would have been early June, but they you know, this year it's end of May versus because of the World Cup,
mm.
which is yeah. Anyway. Um
So, David, you had mentioned those computer magazines, computer design magazines, in the last meeting,
yeah,
and I'd looked through some random ones that, man, I mean, I hate to say some of them were like dinosaurs, but like, because I have no familiarity with any of those kind of things, and they were like, it was like an alien world to me, and it went way further than I thought. It went, I don't know, into the 90s at least. So I was looking in there in some of the early 80s to see, did they mention the Sinclair? But if they did, I didn't see it. They were like, it's too tiny for this for us. We need something much much larger for it to make our pages.
quite literally big iron.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of craziness. Well, part of my fascination with this is just that that was one of the control data mainframes. Control data corporation mainframes were things that I got to play with when I was a teenager, as well as some of the DEC mini computers like the VAX 11780. But also, uh, three, four of the guys who ended up at Timex, Lon, Hildreth, Dave Boyle, Scott McCourt, and I think Will Collum, all came from Burroughs, which was also in Connecticut. But they were involved not in the mainframe side, but in this small office system group. They were working on this thing that you could, eventually buy to have a Burroughs office system in your small business. Um, I think it might have been Z80 based, but I don't recall exactly. Lon talked about that on that meeting
Wait,
we had a long, long
Burroughs was
time
still
ago.
around back in the Z80 days? I thought they went out of business before then for some reason.
Burroughs was active until at least the 80s, if not a little bit longer. Yeah,
Oh,
mainframes lasted until the 80s.
sure. Oh, yeah, to the 90s
Um,
for sure. Yeah.
UNIVAC. Um, you can I don't remember if it's UNIVAC. There's some, I think it is UNIVAC, that you can buy UNIVAC computers. They're just Intel computers now, and the software runs on top of, ran on top of Windows NT, and then later versions of whatever Windows. But you can still buy UNIVAC mainframe software, whatever those things did, from whoever UNIVAC is now. I can't remember.
Like
Uh,
Sperry, did Sperry buy them or was it the other way around?
I don't know. Sperry was the parent of UNIVAC at one point. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But they've like Wikipedia has a pretty good article on UNIVAC, and
Never heard
you
of
know,
it.
right,
Wikipedia? Spell
whatever.
that for me, will you?
I don't know. They made these computers that were, big iron,
Yeah.
literally raised floors, all that kind of jazz. Um, those of you who are on the email list, you probably saw an email come from Don Crawford in the past couple days for something they call Zoust. Don and Dave Spinett brought us RoboTac last month, and apparently that was not enough. They have not, been resting on their laurels. And let me just share this little 81 screen here. So they have made a port of Joust to the 81. You need a ZXpand, or you can run it in 81, the emulator. You need to ZXpand. There's a specific setting that you have to make for the memory. I don't have a joystick, and so I don't think I can even advance past this screen.
Wait,
But
wait, what? You
go
don't have
ahead.
a joy okay, that's right. We've talked about this before. You don't have a joystick.
Well,
I'm gonna
it's
buy
it's
you a
not that
damn
I don't have.
joystick.
I did buy a gamepad for, a USB gamepad.
Uh-huh.
Um, I just haven't managed to get it working with my computer yet. So let me share. They have a screen capture on. Here we go. They have a screen capture of the gameplay itself that they posted on Sinclair CX World. Looks like Joust to me, but in black
Hmm.
and white. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get because I did enjoy playing Joust. Was one of those weird games that I think I was a masochist for trying to play it because I'm not good
There's
at
probably
playing.
is there a there must be a Spectrum version of that, right? I
Oh, I'm
guess.
sure. Yeah, there's got to
Yeah.
be a Spectrum version
Yeah.
of Joust. Um, yeah, so there's the original screen. Wait a minute, that's why is that inverted from what I had on? Oh no, it's not inverted. Okay, it is like that. Um, yeah. So you can download this. They posted it on a bunch of the Sinclair Facebook groups, but it's also just in the Sinclair ZX world. You have to log in. You have to create a user account to get into Sinclair ZX world. They closed it, I don't know, a couple of years ago. It used to be wide open. Anybody could come in and look at stuff without having to have an account. You now have to create an account in order to see the posts, which also means that none of this stuff is indexed by Google anymore, which is unfortunate. But there it is. That's their call. Um, so that was really cool. The other thing, and I included this
Well,
in,
if I remember, I mean, I haven't read the small print here, but when I did read it, I haven't tried it or anything, but
yeah,
it only requires 16K, which I thought was pretty impressive.
does
Yeah.
it or does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're keeping the code within 16K.
Yeah. There it is.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and somebody commented, I think on the Facebook group, and I think Don mentioned that they had to do some compression. I'm not seeing that discussion here, but they had to do some compression.
Oh, they posted that into the message they sent to our group. Like
Okay.
it's like 32K of code and somehow it's compressed or almost 32K of code, something like that.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. 30, yeah.
Yeah.
So they did a bunch of compression
Mhm.
in order to fit stuff um into that 16K. Um what I want to
And I
find.
do know about the Z expand, but remind me what is it going to let them what does it let them do that they can't like have a high res mode basically? Is that what it is?
So the ZX Span is it implements, it gives you all the RAM that you can possibly have from the RAM just above the 8K ROM in the 81/1000. So there's that 8 to 16K block that's not available to basic, but you can put stuff in there. There was a product called the Hunter board, which was one of the first devices that could, map RAM to that space. And the guy who designed it, um, in the articles that were published, I think it was in Radio Electronics, uh, he populated it with static RAM chips and like a little battery backup so that you could put machine code routines into that 8 to 16K, like renumbering and all these other kinds of routines were written that could go in there. Um, so it became real popular. And then Wilf Richter wrote this thing called WRX16, which is a machine code routine for doing high resolution graphics on the 81/1000. And his routines sat in that space. So that's required to use this.
Is that
This
the routine that like you have to make like one trace or one cut to a trace or something like that to make the
It
that one work?
does require the M1 not to work. Yeah,
Okay.
so there's something, that you might have to do to your 81. Um, then you get the regular 16K of RAM, and then you get the next 16K from 16. Let me think. The memory goes uh, from 32 to 48K space. And if you're programming in BASIC, your BASIC program can sit in that 16K window that is from 16K to 32K. Um, you can't have because of the way the 81 is designed, you can't have basic programs that sit in the 32 to 48K, but you can have data. You can have variables that can sit up there. Um, so that's what the Expand supports. It has an SD card slot. It has an AY3 8910 sound chip. Um, I want to say it has some other, joystick port. I can't recall. I don't think it has like a Wi-Fi. Um, and then it
And
alters.
is it being made still or is it
No,
gone?
not really.
Okay.
So actually that Sinclair ZX World forum, some folks on there got the permission from the guy who designed and used to build the ZX spans to build a version they call the Open Span, slightly different format. The ZX band, it fits. It's like the size of an old Memotech module, and then somebody designed a 3D enclosure that looks like a Memotech module, plugs into the back of your computer, and it looks like nice and sleek. The Open Span is more of a square circuit board, but it implements all of those same features. And then the ROM itself is altered a little bit so that you can it changes three commands, copy, list, and I think lprint into sort of its own DOS commands. So like copy becomes cat, for like the equivalent of directory. But 81, the emulator also just implements all of this stuff. So, if you can't get your hands on a ZXpand or an OpenSpan, um, you can use 81 on a Windows machine to play Zoust and Robotech.
So
Uh,
81 isn't supported on anything but Windows machines? That's kind of sad.
81 only runs under Windows. Yep.
Oh.
Yep, unfortunately. Um, yeah, it is but I run it um on my Mac using Crossover, which is a commercial version of Wine.
Oh,
Which is Windows. Wine is not
it's not an emulator.
an emulator, right?
Yeah.
It's a not Windows emulator. Um, Wine, for whatever reason, the current versions of Wine, the ones that you can download from the Wind website don't work on the ARM-based Macs, the 64-bit Macs, and they've the folks behind Crossover have done whatever to magic to make that work. So Crossover is what runs it. So that's pretty cool that they came out with that. The other thing I wanted to show was this guy. Actually, I want to show you a couple more things. Legend of Zed. So there's this guy, um, Walter. Let me see if I can see his. Let me go to his. If his name is on here, Walt. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen for this. Where did that go? Okay. Walter Ariel Risi. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Um, has written a couple of games for a bunch of different systems that he has. The 81. He's also written games for this Casio Pocket Viewer, which is like some sort of PDA that was available in the 2000s. Um, and yeah, those are the ones he's got up on his itch.io webpage. So a while back, he published this game called Dungeons of Zed, which is sort of like a rogue-like game for the 81/1000 classic roguelike, as it says here, elements of roguelikes and classic action dungeon games. It's got this, you push your little character through and collect the things. Um, so he just put out an update or a newer version or, chapter two, as it were, called Legend of Zed. And again, these things run on, a real live 81 or in, you know, take your pick of an emulator. Um, and, beautiful, low res, ZXE1/1000 level graphics. That thing in the middle is your dude.
Yeah, like it looks like he's got a shield or something and a
I
sword,
think
maybe.
so. I think
Maybe,
so.
you know,
And I'm
use your
assuming,
imagination.
yep, yep. This is a very much use your imagination
Yeah.
kind of game. Right? I mean, those are trees, I'm assuming.
Picked up the beer barrel. That's my kind of game.
Right,
Oh, look at that.
exactly. Yeah. Um, Very cute. I started playing it, and it doesn't require a joystick. I think you can, if I go recall quick, you can control it with your keyboards. And already somebody has reviewed it on YouTube.
Of
Um,
course they did.
so there's a video if you want to go watch a YouTube video. And then this one kind of blew my mind. Somebody has come out with a Tetris for the ZX80. Um, And the problem that you face with the ZX80 is that it doesn't have the equivalent of in keys. There's no easy way to, there's no in statement, so it's really difficult to read the keyboard in a live way. So it's a turn-based version
What?
of Exactly. It's a turn-based version of Tetris. You decide, what you're going to do, and then it renders your decision. You only get two moves and one rotation, so you have to be really, really careful. I have not
Uh,
tested this. I was just blown away and this came out a couple days ago. I was blown away that somebody wrote, you know, a program for the ZX80 in 2026. So, there you go.
well, I mean, you could write the game in machine language, just not basic. So it's written in basic, is that right?
Oh, it's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if it's written in BASIC or machine language.
Because you
Uh,
wouldn't be limited otherwise, right? I mean, I don't know
well,
much
in
about the
machine
80.
language, you would be able to, I think you would be able to read the
Read the
keyboard.
keyboard.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah, so it must
So
be
it
in
must be written
BASIC.
in basic. No wonder it's turn-based. It
Yeah.
better be.
Well, it's pretty difficult to write machine language programs for the ZX80 as well, um, just because,
Right,
It's
because it's so
4K
easy
of
for the
the
81
original
and the
4K ROM is
2068.
pretty
Sure.
limited. Yeah. And so the last thing that I want to mention is we talked about this a meeting or two back. Um, Paul, who's sometimes comes to the Zoom meetings, is both a retro computer person and a musician, and he likes to use his retro computers to do his music. So he has this, collection of he like uses the TI 99 4A. It has a sound chip in it. Um, and he has a 1000 with a ZX band. And so he's been trying to figure out how to program that AY chip, using the 1000 to make sound. He also has a 2068, and he sent an email to the list a little while back saying, are there any trackers, which is a special kind of music software um, that came about especially with the Amiga. I think the first tracker might have been written for the Amiga. Um, uh, 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 the way that
Right, they use mod files, I think, right? Is that right?
yeah, and the way that I've described trackers is like trying to use a spreadsheet to sequence notes to make
They're
music.
weird.
It's very
Yeah.
similar. Uh,
Yeah.
you
It was
know.
fun to use them to load programs, but I don't understand. I never
Oh,
got the idea of,
the
yeah,
yes,
to
the
write
amount of
one, to write
patience
music.
required and the things that people have done with those files. There's a for a long time there's a really big scene of people who are just writing songs in trackers, and you could there was within specific there was just the tracker scene in general, but then there were subsets, and there were a bunch of people, especially in Russia, who
Hmm.
would write for the Spectrum or their Russian equivalent of the Spectrum.
I think one of the advantages back in the day was that the files were super small, if I
Yep,
remember correctly. Yeah.
yep, because it's just the note data,
Yeah.
kind of like a MIDI file is just the note data. So Paul, asked about this, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds like a thing that I mean, I know that there are programs available for the Spectrum that you can use to, write your music. But the 2068 is different enough from the Spectrum, and especially in this respect, that you can't just run it directly because the AY is on a different port number. So I did some digging and a little bit of learning, and turns out that there's an engine, a playback engine that somebody had written for um, the Spectrum, and then I used my pal Claude to do the heavy lifting. I've done no lifting with with this,
Your muscles are
uh,
going to wither.
except back and forth debugging. So this is what a tracker looks like on um, on the Infuse on 2068, and I wonder if I can get this to play. Let me do.
So this is based, but before you continue, this is basically just a Spectrum version or a 2068 conversion of the Spectrum programs already written?
No, no, this is an
No.
entirely new program, but
Oh,
it uses that little machine code playback engine. So
oh.
the very core of of taking what you see here, this listing of notes and and the channels, the channel A, B, and C, those three columns correspond to the three sound channels in the AY chip. And I don't think my audio is going to get piped through. I have not yet figured out how to do this, how to get the audio to pipe through to Zoom, which is unfortunate because this is a tracker version of a famous early electronic music song called Buttered Popcorn, I think is the name of the tune. Let's see. Let me just um, did that come through at all? You get no sound or
I don't hear
anything?
anything.
Yeah, okay, that's too bad. It's probably got some. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just hear.
Why don't you hum it for us, okay?
Oh, why don't you? mm, recommended for meetings involving multiple activities. I don't know. I just brought up the Zoom. It,
Have you
it
tried this on real hardware then?
Not yet because
Not
my
yet.
my real hardware has been busy debugging the TS Pico software.
You can go old school and just use your phone.
Use my phone to log in a second window. I wonder if I can do that as host. Uh,
Well, you don't need to be host for the sound to come through.
oh no, no, I'm just saying that that since I am host, I wonder if it was gonna. Let's see if I can do this. If I can join
Live debugging is the best. It
live
really is.
debugging. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Yeah, continue with Google. Here we go. Uh, yeah, yeah. I'm not signed in on my phone. No, I don't want to see what's new. Crap. I have to step
Yeah,
through.
you probably don't want to sign in. Just type in a name for the screen name.
Um, oh, but all of these say start. Shoot. Oh no, I don't want to transfer. Crap. It's giving me the option to, because I'm host, it's giving me the option to transfer the session to my phone, which is not a thing that I want to do. I'll make a video recording of it. I'll make a video
Okay.
and post it. But if you
Is
look
it
up,
have you posted it somewhere? Or maybe I'll try it this week or something if you have on
no,
the
no,
hardware.
yeah, not yet. I'll make a little recording after this one because it's not that long, and yeah, it'll be cute. It'll be cool to have a little demo video up on the YouTubers. Um, and then the last thing that I want to mention is uh
Well,
this
actually, go
guy.
back.
Go
I
ahead.
mean,
Go
you didn't
ahead.
really describe your process. I mean, I know you said you used your pal Claude, but how long did it take and
Oh,
that kind of stuff? Because I mean, I still haven't used Claude, and you make it seem I almost like it's you click your fingers and you're done. But I know it's not that simple.
pay no attention to the AI behind the curtain. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so uh it was a few weeks back, and so I've got, I've kind of, I mean, I've worked on so many other things since then. I've kind of lost the thread of what I did, but I think it actually I know I downloaded or pointed it at some of the Spectrum trackers, and I explained what I wanted to do. I wanted to write a program that would let you write, tracker music on the 2068, and so it puts together one of the things you can say is, put together a plan. So it put together a plan, and step one was just get a player working first, which is what we did. And um, it, writes code, and then I open it up in Fuse and test it out and say, oh no, it's, broken in this way. It's not doing this thing the right way. And it makes a lot of assumptions because Claude, and I've been saying this a lot lately in terms of just how AI works. Claude, other AIs, um, seem like they're experts in all things. They are super, super wide, but also really, really shallow. And in really specialized areas like the Sinclair computers, or even worse, the Timex Sinclair computers, that that depth gets even shallower, right? So one of the things that I have done is just build a little directory full of reference information about the 2068 on my computer. So I have the disassembly in there. I used that information to disassemble Gustavo's ROM work. I've got a whole bunch of other reference
Oh, for
documents.
the TSP code you're talking about?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I've got a whole bunch of other reference documents that I've put in there, like the 2068 technical manual, and just a bunch of other things that are pulled together so
It's
that
probably, did you put in the, what is it, the disassembly of the 2068 ROM as well?
yep, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. So it can leverage these things. It still is not super smart in that respect. And so, I end up correcting it and saying, no, that's not actually how that works. Especially because I'm trying to get it to write a program that will work both on physical hardware and in emulators, and the two have different behaviors. Physical hardware with a physical cassette tape, you press play on the cassette tape, and if you've passed the thing that you want to load, it's never going to load. You have to rewind the tape and, do
Right.
that. Whereas in emulators, it gets to the last thing and it just like loops around back to the beginning and goes through it. And that alone led to a bug that Tim Swenson found in terms of how it was loading files. And so it was just trying to go based on file position in the tap file. And I'm like, no, you actually have to specify the name of the thing that you want to load in order to get it to load properly. Because what the player will do is, let me go back to the player. Let me go back to the main menu of the player, which is, I gotta remember how that. Is it Q? Yes, Q is for back. Okay, so let me share my screen. Um, so the first thing, yeah, I'll do rescan. Okay, so, um, oh, that was so quick. Okay, so the first thing that it does when you run the program uh, is it doesn't assume that the tracker files that you want to play are in the cassette, or in this case, in the tap file. So it asks you to load the tap file that you want to, that has the tracker files in it that you want to play. And it scans that and creates this little menu from what it found. That's why it says three songs found up here in red at the top. And there's this, list of three things. Um, And that's why down at the bottom it says 1 to 9 to edit the song. Again, I'll probably tell it, you should make that dynamic based on how many it found because there's not nine here, obviously. So you press 3 to bring up the song, and it shows you a little bit of information about the song, like how many patterns there are in the song, a couple loops, what playback speed it is. I don't know what this numbers. I don't know what any of these numbers mean here. Um, but then you go to view the pattern, and this is where you can actually edit those individual patterns within the song, um, and play back that song. And it tells you, how much free space you have left for songs. And all of these songs are pretty small. They're only a couple K. So, you don't need a huge amount of memory, at least, for the Spectrum ones. Um, But what Tim ran into was um, the that Claude assumed that if I played Christina, if I pressed 1, um, that if I then later wanted to play 2 or 3, that would work out just fine because the pointer had moved through the file in a certain way. But if I had played Popcorn first, um, and I wanted to play No Power, it does not, if it the original method it was was just trying to skip a number of songs, and it wasn't calculating that right. And so I told it, just use the file name. That will work consistently. So now when you go to load a song, it just loads it based on the file name.
It's almost like Claude is a little kid, and you just have to like explain every little detail, you
Claude
know?
is very much a junior programmer. Yes, I spend a lot of time correcting it for things that it doesn't know. And this is not just, in the Timex world, but in all sorts of other stuff where, I'll say, I want you to do this thing, and it goes off and does it, and it does not know, it doesn't have that deep domain knowledge. This is why humans are not going to be obsolete in the next 2 weeks. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
A lot of back and forth with Claude in terms of just trying to get it to do these things the right way, and a lot of debugging. Um, but it's really, really good at that low level sort of grind work. It's been absolutely fantastic in terms of trying to figure out how to implement Gustavo's protocol using two I/O ports on the Pico through only one PIO on the Pico itself. It figured out a method using one of the registers in the PIO engine. And then we have, Ryan wrote this really cool test program for the Pico that walks you through these 88 different tests of the functions that the Pico can do. And so, I use Ryan's program and I would step through until it stopped working. And then um, I had asked the Claude to write essentially a telemetry. A thing that would go through, and every time the 2068 sends a command to the Pico, it would write that out to a log file, and then I could just copy and paste that log file into Claude, and it can look at it and go, "Oh, right, here's what's actually happening," and then adjust accordingly to figure out, how to actually implement that, whatever that feature was, or whatever. So, um, but yeah, you're right. It's like talking to a kid song sometimes.
So it's like talking to me. It's, yeah.
Well, but you know about the Bally Arcade and the Amiga and the Atari and etc. It does
Yeah, I
not.
know different. I'm very shallow about all of them. That's the problem. It's just like Claude.
You know more than Claude. Let me put it that way. That's for sure. Um, yeah. Um, okay. So I'm sorry. There was one other thing. This guy Alexander posted on Facebook. I feel like the very beginning of this year, maybe late last year, that his grandfather had written some programs on an 81 or a 1000, and he wanted to recover those programs. Like he had at least one of the tapes from his grandfather. And so, I responded to him on Facebook and I said, here's the process that I use involving Audacity and, 81 and etc. And then I didn't hear from him for a long time. And then 2 weeks ago or something like that, he posted back on Facebook that he had gotten the tape, had recorded it into his computer with Audacity, and then that's where he ran into difficulty. He couldn't get it to actually load and stuff. And so I
Yeah,
said,
well, that's
"What's
the hard part. I mean,
that's
getting
the
that
hard part."
analog in. I mean, once you've got that, you're
Yep.
almost done, really.
Yep. Well, I said, "Send me the WAV file," and I looked at the WAV file, and he had a lot of um, he had a lot of the sort of the noise that comes before a program and the noise that comes after a program. So I just trimmed the WAV file to just the program, and I
Hmm.
tried it, and I couldn't get it to work. And I could see that the reason that I couldn't get it to work is that um, there was uh, the pattern of I wonder if I can just bring up Audacity and show it. It was the pattern of translations that happens within Audacity. And yeah, cool. All right, I'm going to show this. Um, Here we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This portion here is the actual program itself. This is the file that he sent me, and this is the noise that happens first. Let me just zoom into that, and you can see what this actually is the ULA. It's the video signal at this point. Let me zoom out a little bit. So that's the video signal that the 81 is generating. And then when you go to save, it stops doing that and it switches to, we're going to make an audio recording. So there's this little pause between generating video and generating audio. And in that little pause, let me zoom in. Oh, wrong direction. In that little pause, it looks like this. It's quiet, theoretically quiet, um, which is reasonably true. Let me go over to so here's the actual program data itself, and if I zoom in, you'll see those bit patterns, right?
Hmm.
So this is a zero, and this is a one. Okay. And I loaded it up in 81. And one of the nice things that you can do in 81 is shift the point at which it detects those peaks, right? But you can see this zero is higher than this zero.
Hmm.
And it looks like to my eye that there is a slight sine wave that is modulating this signal. So it's that's why it's sort of going up and down, right?
Yeah.
And so if I push in 81, if I push this zero up enough that it can read these peaks, it's also going to see this little thing right here. And let me just zoom in a little bit. Oh, that's too much. It's going to see this little bounce between ones. And what it'll pick up on is that right there. It'll see that as a peak. And then
Hmm.
that's where it kind of goes nuts and it can't work it out. So, and you can actually, it's even more obvious here. You can sort of see that up and down, especially on this one and this one. Um, so I sent it to Joe. I said, Joe, can you take a stab at this? And thinking, and then I wrote Alexander back, and I said, Joe's going to look at this, and it'll probably be, a day or two or something like that. Half an hour later, I get an email from Joe that says, "You think that was a challenge?" Joe had managed to. So, Joe, tell me, I'm really, really curious. How did you solve this?
Audacity has several tools for like extracting out. So if you look at that waves and peaks, it looks like
Yeah,
60 hertz noise to me,
doesn't
right?
it? Okay.
Yeah. So you can use Audacity and normalize it and eliminate the 60 hertz bounce. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so I amplified it first and then normalized it for volume,
Okay.
right? And it eliminates that 60 hertz because I've had a lot of tapes that look just like that, but it's the normalized functions, and you just tried the different normalized functions for normalizing volume. Like if you
Oh,
go up under effects,
yep.
um,
So there's a
so there's a
loudness
couple different.
normalization and normalize.
Yep, yep,
So would
and that
oh,
straightens it right out.
I gotta select a
Yeah,
sample. Let
select
me
everything, and
all right. So
well, you
I'll
probably want to clear off your
uh,
beginning and end noise
yep,
because you
yep.
don't want to normalize against all that junk.
Well, actually, I think I have the edited
Eh, right,
wave.
and this is in stereo, and
Oh yes, that's
that
right. There's
messes
that
it up too.
other.
So at first I converted it to mono, then I did an amplification, and then I did a normalized volume, and then I think I flipped it upside down with invert, and then used that rectivert to get rid of the lower half.
Okay.
So if you focus in on the program itself,
Yeah, hang on. Let me just trim
okay,
off this. There we go.
okay,
Okay. And I think that's the one to go in. All right. So, oh, wrong direction. Oh no, that's the right direction. All right.
yeah.
Let me just come in. Okay. All right. Tell me what to do, Joe.
Okay,
Oops.
so yeah, right to the very first bit, the very first
Yes.
serial,
Yeah.
and highlight everything before that, and zero it out with that. I think you can do Control Home. Wait, yeah. So the button up there underneath the negative magnifying glass,
Mm-hmm. This one?
yeah, mute it. Yeah,
Silence audio selection. Oh,
yes.
oh,
So
oh, oh,
yeah,
okay.
so you get
Yeah.
rid of the noise in the beginning and end, but you got to make
Okay.
this a mono first.
Yeah, yeah.
So you want to, you know,
Can I just delete the channel? Oh,
no,
okay.
you got to save it as a mono.
Oh, I gotta save it as a mono. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Um,
yeah, but yeah, and then the normalized functions are what really does the trick.
okay. Okay. Or I can just send it to you.
Well, this
Well,
is
yeah, you could do
does
that.
this end up being like a hello world? I will kill myself if that's the case.
No, this
No.
is this is a risk program that actually automates the accounting all your little armies and risk.
Oh,
So it's
really?
it was pretty interesting. Plus, there's some extra stuff in there where it randomly miscounts and sends you extra armies, and there's some other features like adding um,
You can buy
money
armies.
in. Yeah, where you can buy armies from a
So this would
kitty.
be like the dungeon master if you were playing Risk,
Yeah,
if
Yeah.
there was such a thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they according to Alexander, his grandfather wrote this, like Joe was saying, to automate certain portions of Risk, but also to implement these house rules of like, you could put you could purchase extra armies for however much money, and that would lead to a pot, and the winner would get the pot, of money that came from that.
Yeah, Risk is a great game. My nephew and I still play like every month or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe, literally I mean, like 9:30, I had an email from Joe. Um, and Alexander was absolutely thrilled that
Yeah.
we'd
So
made.
does he remember playing this with his grandfather? But is that what it was, or?
No, no, just his grandfather had, done all this programming with his
Oh, I see.
81 or 1000 back in the day. And so now he's going to go look for, other tapes from his grandfather and let him know that the program had been recovered, and it was pretty cool. And
Yeah, I like that.
I'll put it up on the website. Alexander said it's okay to put this up
Oh,
on
cool.
the website, so you can use it for your own house rule Risk.
Yeah.
Hey, David,
Hey,
on uh, on that Audacity one, or maybe I know or Joe, I suppose, really. Um, you can do, depending on what you've got, you can do a thing where you select that noise at the beginning.
mm-hmm.
You can actually, I forget it's kind of weird how you had to do it. You go to like a noise reduction,
Yeah.
and then it tells you, oh, go select part of the noise. So you want to select some of that quiet stuff with noise, and then you do it again, and now it says, okay, yeah, you've got a selection of noise, and it filters that out of everything. And
So,
then, and you can do other things like you should be able to eliminate stuff like a 60 hertz by applying a filter,
Mhm.
um,
oh, right,
things like that.
right, a high
You pick,
pass filter.
you put in a frequency filter,
Yeah.
and so um, I forget what that. I forget what the frequency of the data is, though. I'm trying to remember. You can, put a top and a bottom filter around that frequency. You may want to do some normalization, but before you chop the noise samp part off, you can use it you do the noise reduction function.
So, that reminds me that I did this. I don't know if I used Audacity because it was a long time ago. But I had some cassette tapes that had some music on them, and cassette tapes are a little hissy, and so I wanted to take
Yeah,
that hiss out, and I did a long time ago. I digitized some tapes, and I used that. I don't know if it was Audacity or a different program. Unfortunately,
yeah. I
it
did the
also
same
messes
thing
up the music
recently.
a little bit, but that's fine.
Well, it depends. I did it on some music recently, um, and it was pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it depends on what you got.
yeah.
Um, and then I used it to, I used that to clean it up, and then denoise it, and then I imported it into GarageBand so that it was all against a measure since this was music, and I was able to use that to correct the bad timing at the beginning by
So,
chopping it up in the quiet parts and moving things over to line with the measures.
wait. So this wasn't commercial music. This was something else.
Now, this was the audio recording that I made
Okay.
of some music, and my timing was terrible at the beginning. And so once I got it cleaned up, I could put it in there and then line it up, and then the quiet parts, split it, scoot it over, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
But I do have tapes for computer data tapes. I do have some where like that sine wave of the audio, you can see it. Oh, I can see the ones and zeros. but it itself is in a volume drop that that squishes it all down to nearly nothing.
Yeah.
Because the recording is terrible, and yeah. So there's some that are going to be a challenge, but I finally got what's the Java one? I think it's just called
Oh,
ZX Tape or something.
yeah.
I think did okay on one, so I'll have to try that to start on my ZX81 tape recovery.
Well, that new one that you put out there, David, it works much better than the original one.
Okay. Wait, and you had told me, Joe, that for P files, it was putting in extra, it was getting the E-line value wrong or something. Was that the program that
No, that was or
was that 81, the emulator?
no, it was your new one. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm getting tired. Yeah. For some reason, if I created a P file directly out of there,
Yeah.
it would tell me that there were too many bytes according to Eline when I tried to run the program. But the
Okay.
TZX would work just fine. So then I could load it up as a TZX and then convert it to a P or something like that. But a P file directly out of that latest version of the program
Yeah.
has a bug. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
something about the number of bytes in the is actually more than what's in the P file.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure what's causing that.
Well,
I seem to recall there is something about that. It's like a P file thing. I don't remember enough off the top of my head, but I've seen something about that before. I believe that there could be more bytes in the file, and it's I forget if it's like a special format. I'm It's just a vague memory, but I bet you could look it up.
okay.
I
So,
think it's a thing of some sort.
um, is is that in the version is that a function of the version you've been using, Ryan?
No, I think it's a vague memory, just about the format.
Okay.
Um, um, but no, it's, um, yeah, I can't recall quite exactly what it's associated with. If it's just like, I think I remember reading it about talk when I'm looking up info about P files. There was some mention of this,
Okay.
but it's a vague memory. Um, so I don't really know. Um, if it's something to do with a particular program, I don't believe so. I think it's just you can find P files that have this condition. I'd say as far as I remember.
Okay. Okay.
But my memory is hazy at the moment because
Is your memory impacted by beverages
it,
at the
it
moment?
could be impaired. Um, you know,
Wait,
reasons.
are you actually out of the country, Ryan?
It would appear so. Um, but no, it's really just New York,
Wait,
and
you're in New York?
Vegas.
Oh, Vegas.
The
Oh,
New
okay.
York, New York.
Sorry, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, you can't. We're too close. You can't see it. But um, yeah. So anyway, just my tip. It was time for a call from an exotic bar.
Ryan is our seasoned traveler. Oh my God. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, I just it just that's all I can remember at the moment. And I don't have. I'd have to go look it up. But I think if you looked it up, like extra bytes in a P file, something. I think pretty sure it's that. But there's some reason for this, and I think it may have to do with the P format itself. I don't know if it's the reason, but there was something about a P format, and it may not be the extra bytes thing, but there was also like some some emulators would store the name of the file in some non-standard way in the P file.
Okay.
Well, why don't we get back to that later or
Is that
something?
great?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I remember.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Well, have fun.
Yeah,
Ryan.
have fun, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I should call in from a pub. I'm sure they'd appreciate that. Sorry, you can't host a meeting from here.
Hey, I have a quick question. I don't know if anyone will know the answer to this, but David would if anyone does. So I was contacted this past week by a user of the Astrocade, or not a user of the Astrocade at all, but someone who had a question about the Astrocade because he was into like there's a 17-minute video that was made in like 1984, like it was put on public television or something like. I wrote it down. Let's see. It was made at the California Institute of Arts in association with WNET 13 NYC. Okay. And it was like a 17-minute video that's all like, artsy. Okay. But during the video, it's obvious that there's computer graphics being used. And in the description that he has for this, it said that a Valley Arcade was used. And he'd never even heard of the thing, of course, because who has? And so he found a blog that I have, and where I was displaying some computer graphics because there's video art was pretty popular to create on it in Valley Basic, because it was like the machine only had 1.8K of RAM, and so there wasn't a lot you could do. I was wondering if the Timex was ever used for anything like that. Like, did people ever use it as an inexpensive way to make computer graphics and then put them in videos?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, there's a bunch of programs that generate,
Sure, of course. Yeah.
stuff like that. But whether it was recorded to tape, I don't know. I know that
Well, because this was more than that. It was like using the video and then green screening it and like with people, and so it was pretty sophisticated, especially for the time for '84, and probably being made by a college student, I'm guessing, but I don't know for sure.
yeah, like chroma
Um,
keyed it maybe.
yeah, that's the word the guy used in his email to me. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Um, so it was more than just like maybe the computer art was created on the computer, but then I don't know, a lot more stuff was done. Like the video took 2 years to make in the description of it. It says. I'll put a link to the video in the
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'd
on
love to see
YouTube
that.
actually. Yeah. It's like 17 minutes of like pretty weirdness, but what are you gonna do?
There is an article that somebody wrote about using their 2068, and I think they even wrote a short program to accompany this as a video titler, like to make titles for their,
Sure.
their VHS
Yeah.
tapes.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
popular on the Amiga especially. Yeah.
right, right,
'Cause-
which
yeah.
was much better suited towards
Yeah.
this.
Right. Yeah.
I have a question.
I know Frank Bolden of the Fort Worth group who used it to generate test patterns and other stuff apparently on his amateur video channel that he
That,
had.
yeah, that's right. He made a program that showed his call sign and maybe some other stuff. And that makes
Like
sense.
his
That makes
ham
sense,
radio
Ryan. He
call
would have
sign?
used it
Is that what you
on
mean?
his slow scan um,
Okay, I've heard
stuff.
that term. I don't know what it means.
Slow scan.
Yeah.
Um, so it's amateurs broadcasting TV signals legitimately over the airwaves, except not on TV frequencies. It's on the frequencies in which they're allowed to transmit, and it might even be limited to some specific. I don't know enough. And the reason it's called slow scan is because it's not remotely as fast as regular TV. Um,
Frames per second.
How many?
6 frames per
Six.
second.
6? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can
Yeah,
almost think of it
not
as
really
facts.
video. It's
Okay.
transmitting pictures.
Okay.
I have a question. On when you hook the new BEU unit to the Timex 2068, when you shut the computer off, will the BEU unit go off too, or is that on a separate switch?
The well, actually, I'll let Jeff answer that.
Yeah, the current design will switch off everything when you turn the Timex power off.
Okay, and do you need a bigger power supply than the brick that you came with it with the
Um,
2068?
yeah, yes.
Oh,
Um, so a standard, um, and actually the power supply I have spec will not plug into the 2068, so or shouldn't be plugged into the 2068. But
oh, so then you when you get the BEU unit, will you be able to get a power pack, new power pack or whatever for the whole unit?
I would expect that the power pack would come with the BEU.
Oh, okay.
Right, right. It's a laptop power supply. So it's a little switcher that sits in the middle. It's got a power cable at one end and the cable at the other end that you plug in. Was it 19 volts, Jeff?
Because I
Um,
asked a question in the
that's a good
chat before when you were talking about BEU, but I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know if
I'm
you
sorry, I didn't see
agree
that.
or not.
Oh,
heck,
oh,
David. I don't know. I just bought the silly thing. I don't remember what it is.
I mean, it doesn't matter
Um,
because it goes through
I got 16 volts here. That's
16.
yeah, that's mostly because the input. I don't want to overstress the input to the Timex.
Right, right.
The 12 volt regulator is the big issue there.
Yeah, 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 exactly. But yeah, it's just a little laptop power supply brick unit. There's tons of them available on Amazon. We'll when the day comes, we will, put it all together as a package, and I don't know if it's gonna have a pretty box, but it will come with everything that you need except a clue for how to use
No manual for you.
it. No, there'll be a manual. Whether you follow the manual, whether you RTFM before you start, doing things with it, that's a whole different question
All
entirely.
right.
The manual is optional equipment.
Yeah.
Got to pay you the extra for that.
The manual comes with it. The reading of such manual, that's entirely up to you. Yes.
So we are about out of time.
Yep.
When is our next meeting, and what are we going to discuss?
So June 1st,
Okay.
actually, Monday falls on the 1st, which means that the next meeting after that would fall on not on the 14th, because the 3rd, it'll be on the 21st. Yeah. Um, what are we going to talk about? That's a good question. Depends upon what turns up on the internet between now and then.
Okay.
What y'all,
Well,
work.
one thing I'd like to, if you can get your sound working through the Zoom, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'll try to
Yeah,
figure that
to
out.
share the tracker with that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll make a little video and post that to the YouTube as well, just
Okay.
so, you know, people can watch that separately and enjoy the wonderful sounds of buttered popcorn played through an
Because I know
AY
that
sound
song, and
chip.
I was gonna hum it, but I'm like, I'm gonna ask him if he'll hum it, but I'm
And literally, whoever wrote that version of it, it starts with the AY sound chip, has a little noise module in it, and it starts with this psh, to simulate, you
oh,
know,
the sound.
the sound of popcorn popping, I guess. Yeah. So, oh, and by the way, Mike Kutzner posted a link in the chat to Tindy for somebody in where is this guy?
Slovakia.
Slovakia, who's selling the ZX Band. And as of this moment, there are seven in stock. The shipping is $31.
Hmm.
What's the tariff?
Let's not, who knows what the tariffs are, but $119 for the ZX Band plus $31 for the shipping. Um, but it's got a good description of the features of the thing,
Okay.
as well as a link to the online manual if you're so interested. So on that note,
So, one other
go
thing
ahead.
I'd like to have, Jeff, are you gonna be able to join the next meeting?
Yeah, Jeff,
Uh,
Kutzner. Oh, not
yeah.
Coleman.
Are you gonna
Oh,
are you gonna
what's that?
be able to join the next meeting? Like, maybe tell us
Oh,
about your experience at the show?
I you said that's the Monday?
Monday the
I'm not sure
1st.
because I'm driving back. I'm staying Sunday to Monday. I mean,
Oh,
I
okay.
should be back in time.
Well, if you could, that'd be cool. I'd like to hear about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna try to get some pictures and stuff on there. Yep.
yeah, and post pictures to the email list. So, even if you
We
don't
can
make it,
pretend we're there.
we can enjoy your
Okay.
pictures.
Okay.
Cool. Cool. All right. See y'all in 2 weeks-ish.
Yeah, sounds good. All right.
Cool.
Bye, guys. It
Bye,
was a fun
guys.
one.